start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna swing.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go is perfect.
When they lose their front shoulders, yeah, you start, that's how you know it's smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. We probably went 20 yards total. Tipped them, we tried to get back up. And I saw him pull up.
We rushed 40 years rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that. And then the next day we came up to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the table with me, Nick, and Tom for another installment of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. What's going on, boys?
What's up, everybody?
Glad to be at the table this evening.
Always happy to be here with everybody.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so we don't really have anything to talk about, do we?
There's no housekeeping.
Yeah.
We did, Tom and I checked some traps before we got here to podcast. Sadly, they're all out. Nothing in them.
Nuts. I suppose we could mention before we get into it, our t-shirt designs are almost done. That'll be coming down the pipe pretty soon. So,
yeah, I don't want to give too much away on those.
Yeah,
but
I just want to say.
We haven't
I don't
even
even
said
know-
what our slogan is.
No, if people
we
really
mentioned it a
pay,
while
if
ago.
people really pay attention and have listened, I don't want to give any more than that away, but they could probably pick it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even know if we officially launched that we were doing some t-shirts.
I don't know. I know we talked about. I'm certain we specifically talked about the one shirt design,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
So yeah, that's
It's happening soon, so
coming down
keep
the
your eyes
pipe.
open for that.
So it's in the works. Got some other fun stuff coming as the year starts to kick off for us. Obviously, you guys will be informed as it comes about. But the main topic for tonight, we mentioned it a little bit last week, just briefly. Frank is purchased it. Well, at the time, I think you.
I didn't have it yet.
Yeah,
but
he didn't. You hadn't even ordered it yet. I don't think. Have you?
I think I ordered it the next day because I was having some trouble finding the bow that I wanted, the pound that I wanted, all the specs that I wanted.
Yeah. So basically, Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll just go from there.
So I made the jump to traditional archery. I'm gonna go with the recurve. I didn't even really consider hunting with the longbow. Just didn't really appeal to me. You get more power out of a recurve, just because of the shape of the bow and everything. So that was first place I went, and I have shot recurves in the past. Not like I haven't gotten way into it. I've just shot them here and there. My dad had one, or has one, I should say, and I've shot. And it's something that I've always had an interest in, but never enough to really fully jump into it and make the commitment. But this year I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I was, at first
Don't talk about it, be about it.
Exactly. At first I was still kind of talking about it. And then I was talking to you one morning, we were just texting about it. And you were like, yeah, I kind of thought about it too, but I'm not ready to make the jump. I was like, you know what, I'm making the jump. I'm saying it right now. I'm done. I'm doing it. It's happening. And here we sit. Bow's been bought. Got here the other day. Still waiting on some
Break
arrows.
it down. What
I was
bow
going to
did
say,
you
why
buy?
don't you tell us about it?
I'm going to. I was just saying that's where I'm
Frank,
at in
come
the
on.
process.
Everyone wants to know.
I went with a bear. Yeah.
Okay, we have some background noise, so I'll apologize for that. I'll see if you might not even be able to hear it by the time this launches. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank.
But I went with a Bear Kodiak Magnum. It's a brand new bow. I thought about buying a used one, but I was like, the hell with it. I'm just going to get a brand new one because you can get that exact same bow. It's a pretty popular bow. There's all kinds of used ones. I joined a few Facebook pages and stuff for used archery equipment and stuff for recurves, and found plenty of the bow that I wanted. But even used, they were still not that far off of brand new prices. So I decided to go with a brand new one, and it's a 50-pound bow at 28 inches, which my draw length is exactly 28 inches, so I'm right at that 50-pound mark with that bow. And they go, the measurement, it's sort of like an axle-to-axle measurement, only obviously it's a lot longer. And my bow is a 52-inch bow, and they suggest, from a lot of the stuff that I've read, that The longer the bow is, the more forgiving it is to shoot, and they suggest a little bit longer bows for beginners, which a 52-inch bow is a short bow. So I did end up going with a shorter bow instead. Another bow that I was looking at that was like a top contender for me was a 58-inch bow, which is a very common size. 58, 60, 62, that range is very common for recurves, and that's more of like your standard sizes in there. And supposedly you can get away with like torquing your wrist a little bit more or things like that. But if you have sound mechanics, then it's okay to, you're not going to lose or gain anything with a shorter bow if your mechanics are sound. The only thing you lose is if you're not good at shooting a bow, your mistakes will be amplified.
Yeah.
And all the reading that I did about that particular bow, a lot of reviews on it and watching people shoot it, they say even for a shorter bow, it is still pretty forgiving.
And that's just because of its design or what?
Yeah, I guess. And I don't know everything there is to know about it, and I haven't shot that particular bow yet, and I'm still getting into it, so I don't know.
We're gonna learn together.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna learn together. It's not like I have a lot of other bows to compare it to that I've shot. I've shot maybe 4 other recurves, but not so much that I could give an honest review on that bow.
Yeah.
So,
is the string like the same thickness?
Yeah, roughly. There's
like a standard knock, or do you have to have a separate knock?
No, the knock's the same. It's my string is a Flemish twist string. So
explain yourself.
It looks similar to your bowstring on part of it. It's just like strands turned together, and then at the end it kind of goes up and makes the loop to go over the end of the bow, and then it's a lot thicker up there because then the tag ends of your string are then wound back down and woven into the string again, so it's like twice the thickness at the ends of the string.
I think they call it a bury.
It's called a Flemish twist.
Oh. When you feed like the strands back in to make a loop.
Yeah,
on,
that
on
style.
Rope, it's called a bury, I think.
Yeah, but for bow strings, that is called a Flemish twist.
Gotcha. So how do you, because I know like part of recurves and stuff is like taking apart the bow regularly.
Mm-hmm.
How can you ensure that it's not twisted or twisted too much, or like how do you know which way the string's supposed to be?
You can see it pretty much stays where it is unless you like actively twist it, and you can.
So it's like a piece of rope.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's not
So, like,
gonna just unwind on you.
Okay.
After a while, it's like any bowstring, they wear out and you have to replace them. But you can actually adjust like the brace height and poundage on a recurve, and not a lot. It's minute.
Fine-tuning.
It's fine tuning by twisting your string. So if you have it, at a certain spot, and they have a recommendation for how much your brace height is supposed to be, like 7 to 8 inches, and you can tune your bow by twisting your string tighter, looser, just to really fine tune it. And
Gotcha.
I haven't even shot the bow yet. I'm still waiting on arrows, so I haven't really figured out exactly where to have mine, or I haven't tuned it yet at all. I just going off of everything that I've read that's.
So, what arrows are you going to be shooting?
I'm gonna go with Easton arrows. They're Carbon Legacies is what they are.
With a traditional wrap, correct?
Yeah, they do have like a wood wrap. Just
Okay, good.
I mean, it's absolutely not necessary. It doesn't do anything. But I was like, I'm going with the traditional. I don't want to shoot wooden arrows, but sorry, Tom. But at least they're gonna look
as
like
cool
it,
as
so.
it would be if you did. At least you're doing the wood grain.
Yeah,
like that'll look cool anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then what broadheads are you going to be throwing on the old recurve?
I'm still sticking with the Annihilators 125 grains that you and I just bought. I don't see any reason to get off of them. They're a great broadhead, and they'll perform perfectly on that arrow and with that bow. Everything is within the specs of that arrow to have a 125 grain point on it. So,
what are you doing for a quiver or like arrow transportation?
they do make quivers that like lash onto your recurve. It's obviously different because you're not screwing into. Actually, mine does have 2 threads on the side.
Oh.
so you can mount one that has threads, but I'm gonna go with one. Bear makes a quiver that hooks right onto your bow with a leather strap. It just wraps around and just tightens down. So
That's cool.
that's what I'm gonna go with. And the threads on mine actually are for putting a sight on, so you can put a sight on my bow. But I definitely do not plan to do that.
I feel like that's taking away from
yeah.
what traditional archery is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was looking at a lot of the used bows that I was thinking about buying, I was close to buying some, but then I was like, yeah, they got a sight on them, which you can take it off, but a lot of them are like aftermarket sights and people drilled into the bow. I was like, yeah, I don't want that.
See, I didn't realize that was a thing. Like I've seen like competition archers. Like I went to college at a place that had a very like competitive archery team. And I knew some people on the team, and they had a couple recurve shooters, but their recurves weren't like,
They're
yes,
not
they were
hunting recurves.
Yeah, they were recurves, but they
machined
were
risers and
with sights, stabilizers, and they're probably 65, 70 inch recurve, and they're huge.
Yeah, they're big.
So to me, like for hunting, like it just takes away a lot of it.
Yeah, and I want to get that traditional feel for it. I don't want to have a sight, even though it is an option. I don't want it. I just want to learn to shoot instinctively like that. And that's how I actually started shooting when I was a little kid. My first bow was a compound, but it didn't have a sight on it. Just didn't. And I learned how to shoot that instinctively. I just kind of pulled up and felt it. I didn't snap shoot like I planned to do with the recurve.
It's kind of tough to snap shoot with a compound. But...
Yeah, exactly. So I just learned to shoot instinctively, and the few recurves that I've shot, I shot instinctively. I've never had a sight on a recurve, so it's definitely going to be a big change from the compound, but it's definitely something that I know I'll be able to get used to and get proficient with.
I have 2 questions.
Lay it on me.
You only
Tommy.
get one though.
No. So we'll start with this one first because it pertains to the snap shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So snap shooting, basically, it's you pull back until you hit your anchor or whatever, and then you let go.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your plan of attack if you have a deer that's moving, he stops in your shot, and you get back to your anchor as he starts moving again? Like, are you going to practice only the snapshot, or are you going to practice to draw and hold as well in case that scenario happens?
I do plan to see what it feels like with holding. Obviously, it's a lot different than holding a compound because you're holding the full weight of your string. So it's going to be harder and more difficult to hold steady, but I plan on doing a lot of shooting and getting that muscle memory to be able to pull that back. And I am going to practice with holding it just for that specific reason. And I know a lot of people say that they can only do one or the other. Like they get in a groove with either holding or snap shooting, and they can't do the other one. So we'll see what I settle into. But it's all around going to be a learning experience. I like the snap shooting. That's what I've done with recurves in the past, and it just is more comfortable for me. But in a hunting scenario, it might always not be the perfect thing. So we'll see.
Because I know, like, when I have my compound, I try to draw back when the deer is behind some cover where it can't see me.
Mm-hmm.
So with a recurve, you're essentially drawing when that deer's in the open with no cover in between you two, because when you get back, you're letting that arrow go.
Yeah.
And my other question pertains to hunting out of a tree stand, because I know all 3 of us, we enjoy our mobile setups.
Yes.
And my old compound bow before I got the Matthews was 35 inches to axle.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're up in a common base tree and you got branches and whatnot in a mobile setup where you're not trimming everything, with a 35-inch bow, it was tight.
Yeah.
So what's your plan with a 52 or
52.
52-inch bow?
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why I went with a shorter bow, because I didn't like the idea of having a 60-inch bow in a tree or even on the ground. You know, it's just there's a lot going on there. That's a lot of stick hanging out in front of you to catch on stuff. And like you said, if you're in a common base tree, there's branches and limbs and shit going everywhere. So that's part of the reason why I opted for the shorter bow, even though they're less forgiving. So I found the bow that was supposedly more forgiving at that shorter length, just to make it more versatile in the woods. But like you said, a 35-inch bow for a compound is still like, wow, that's pretty cumbersome. So it's going to be...
Are you going to do more permanent sets that you took the time to really trim out? And
He's going to do a lot of ground hunting, I bet.
I do plan to do a lot of ground hunting, but something that I do every time, even with my compound, I do this. Every setup that I put myself in, after I do whatever pruning that I want to do, I draw my bow in every spot that I think I'm going to draw it and or shoot. And I'll draw my bow and swing around in my stand. I'll do a 360. And
So do you release an arrow too to try and get the feel for that shot?
I do not. I just draw, and
That's probably your problem.
you're probably right. But so I do draw, and I'll put my head in the bucket, and
Thanks, Blaine.
yeah, appreciate that. And I'll like line up my shot, and then I will look around and make sure, okay, is my limb gonna hit anything, top or bottom? And that's just something that I've always done every time I get in a tree. Even if it's a permanent set that I've been in before, every time I get in a tree, that's the first thing I do. I range my spots, and then I draw on all of those spots. And that's just something that I will have to continue to do and pay more attention to, because I've got a lot more bow in the tree with me. So I might have to cut maybe a couple extra things to be free on my limbs for a shot, but yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. I'm gonna have to do it. It's not like I can avoid it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
other thing with recurves is you can shoot them. I see a lot of guys that they're not perfectly level, so you can kind of shoot
Tilt
at a bit
them
of
a
an
little bit.
tilt and shoot at an angle. If that could be the difference. If you don't have a perfect
And
up and
I
down.
don't. Every time I've shot a recurve and how I'm gonna continue to shoot, I do have a slight cant, because they make, like, you see it on competition recurves a lot. They have a little thing on the riser that as you draw the bow back, it holds it. It keeps pressure on the arrow, and then when you get all the way back to full draw, your arrow slips behind that and it falls out of the way, and then you send your arrow, so your arrow can't fall off of the riser, because you don't really have like a V rest like you do on a compound. It's just sitting on an L on your riser.
Does it sit right in the corner
Yeah.
of the L? Okay.
Yeah, so when you cant your bow, it can't fall off of that 90-degree angle that it's sitting in, whereas if you stand it up, there's
Could.
some room for it to wiggle off. But that's why people can't recurves a lot in longbows, is just to hold the arrow on the bow, and that's what I plan to do.
Gotcha. Another thing, while we're talking about like actually shooting them, what are you using for a release aid?
I just plan to have a leather finger strap. I don't want to.
How does that work? I have no idea with the straps. I know like the 3-finger deal, but what do you do?
Yeah, it's literally just like a piece of leather, and it kind of slides over one finger so it stays on, so you don't have to like actually hold it. And then it's just, all it is a piece of leather that keeps your
And you
skin
just kind
off
of
the
let
string.
go of one side of the leather, and the string just kind of comes out of it, or how does it work?
It's basically just like rolling off of your fingers. Like the key to, I heard someone say this when I, just researching recurves, you're not letting go of the string. You're just trying to not be holding it anymore. So you just kind of let it roll. You're not like...
So like if you held on to like a weight, like, or just say a hay bale, and you just held it at your side until it physically dropped out. Like that's the
you just kind
motion
of
you
roll
want.
your
Yeah.
fingers out until it's gone. You're not
Yeah.
like snapping your fingers open
Yeah.
to
I
let
see what you're
go.
saying.
You just kind of relax your hand and the string slides off. Because it's like with a compound, you don't want jerky motions
Yeah.
as you're pulling your trigger of your release or
Yeah,
whatever.
you don't
however
want to be
you're-
like trying to snap your fingers out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it just, those quick movements allow for more error in what you're doing. So the more smooth you can be, the better off you are. And that's why I want to use the leather strap, just because sliding that string with 50 pounds on will tear the shit out of your skin. So
What size arrows? Like, is it like lengthwise? Do you standard like you would
Yep,
use for your
same.
compound, or
And sometimes people will shoot a longer arrow just to get more weight in their arrow. But I plan to shoot basically the same, not the same arrow, but the same length of arrow.
there was a guy when he moose hunted with his bow. I just know him through like social media, and then over in Africa, he killed a giraffe with the same arrow setups. And he out of his compound was shooting just full length arrows, just to get the extra weight. And I guess I never really considered that you could do that. I just assumed that like if they were too long, it would be a problem. But I guess it makes sense that it wouldn't be. I just assumed that when they cut them down, it was like because they had
There's
to be.
a reason for it. Yeah,
So-
but I mean, it's not like it's detrimental to you if you're adding.
It's a weight thing,
yeah.
and then it probably slows people down. And I feel like it's still a thing, but it seems like it's starting to die out. But like people used to be like just speed freaks. That's all they cared about in their bow was speed. And like I said,
Seems like penetration's the thing now.
FOC.
Yeah, people weighting their arrows front of center, like you said, people are all about that now. Is their arrow build? And they're kind of people are still speed freaks, but not
like
as
it's-
bad as when
and that's just what archery does. It just like
it rolls through different trends.
Yeah, speed's a big thing, and then all like, I got a buddy that's, brace height is everything on a bow. I don't really care. I've never noticed a difference. I've shot several different bows, all different brace heights, and I have never noticed a difference in shootability. I think where your brace height has a difference is if your form is off.
Exactly.
If you
and
have
that's
good
where,
form, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you're torquing your wrist as you shoot, the shorter your brace height is, the more you're going to feel that because the arrow is on the string longer for you to torque it. And it seems like, it's not on the string very long after you let go, but it is there plenty of time for you to mess it up.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you have good form, and that goes back to what I was saying with the longer versus shorter recurve, if your form is sound, your mechanics are sound, you're not going to notice it. It's not going to make a difference for you. It's a comfort thing at that point. It's whatever you prefer.
So back to hunting with the recurve. A lot of people, they get a new weapon and they're like, oh, I want to break this thing in with a buck. Are you going to break it in with a buck, or if a doe comes out, are you going to break it in on a doe?
I'll break it in on a doe.
I broke my
Hands down. Not
bow
even-
in on a doe.
Won't even hesitate.
I'd do it on a gopher.
Next, now Dad bought a new bow a couple years ago, and he's waiting to break it in on a buck.
Well, yeah, but that's not even fair because Dad doesn't shoot does anyway.
Yeah.
He does when it's flintlock season, if it doesn't have a fawn, which
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. My Matthews, when I bought my new one, I smacked a doe with it, and that was it. That's
Austin
all I
broke
killed
his
with
in
my-
on a bear, which
Yeah, that's a pretty good break-in.
Yeah.
I
My
might
Lobo.
I might go sit in Nick's stand and break it in with a doe first night. Call it a day right there.
My stand was total balls all year long. Every
Kill
time
a doe
Which
out
stand?
of it first time you went there.
Me?
at the farm.
At the farm.
Oh, at the farm. Oh,
I'm not talking climber. I'm
I
talking
thought you were
farm.
talking about my ladder stand and climber. I'm like, no, that stand was balls all year long. There was
No, the
nothing.
one that you always go to kill a doe.
Oh, I would gladly put you. I could put you on the ground there if you wanted.
It doesn't matter. I was just joking. I got places I could go.
But
wax a
that
doe.
is a guaranteed. And what's nice about that is you are max 25 yards. Most
Yeah.
of them 12 to 15.
Yeah, and that's where I want to. I want to be in that 15-yard range. I plan to be proficient with the bow at 30 yards, but I want my shots to be under 20.
We could actually. I would be willing just because, like, I know that there's so many opportunities there. I would sacrifice a hunt and videotape you doing it with a recurve.
That would be wild.
If Tom would be so kind to let you hunt behind his house.
We'll have to see.
Because at that time, I don't know which part of the property you're buying from Dad, but
Oh, that'll be on it.
so we're gonna have to ask if we can hunt behind Tom's house by next time or next year.
Huh.
But
We'll
yeah,
see.
I mean, it's where it's at is we could either do an in the tree or there's a tree on the opposite side. I could videotape, like get like a totally
From the
different
other
angle.
side,
yeah,
yeah.
so I could get like the deer in front and you behind.
That would be wild.
Seems a little dangerous.
Well, no, if I'm up in a tree and
Oh,
Frank's
okay. If
sitting,
you're in
Yeah.
I thought you were both standing on the ground,
Yeah.
deer in the middle.
how dumb do you think I am?
I don't know.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. We're not going to do that, Tom, but
Hey, you never know. Could get wild.
we'll see. If Frank can show us how proficient he is, maybe we'll.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't make you sacrifice a hunt I won't even go in the woods with it if I'm not proficient with it.
Which is going to suck because you haven't shot your compound
Yeah,
all
I
year.
know.
Like
When
that-
are you going to make the call?
Oh,
I've
already
already
made
made
the
the call.
No, like
Tom.
you were just talking like if you're not proficient, you're going to shoot the
I
compound.
know.
No,
I said
it-
I won't go in the woods with it.
Oh, so you just won't hunt.
He's
I'll
gonna
just
get a
keep
crossbow.
shooting my. Shut your mouth. You're gonna make me puke. No, I'll keep
Cheeseburgers.
shooting in the keep shooting in the yard until I'm good enough with
There
it.
you go.
I made the call, Tom. I'm not touching the compound this year.
I feel like if you can't figure it out by October, you're probably just not going to get it. Or it's just going to be like your
Yeah.
lack of dedication. to
Yes,
it.
that
If
if
October
I'm not
will-
good by October, it will be 100% my fault. It won't be
Yeah.
my lack of ability. It will be just my lack of effort put into it.
Yeah. And you're going to have to live with that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not even gonna, man. He's going to be at the cabin with his recurve and everything.
So are you going to like pie plate at 20 yards and you're out in the woods?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm much better than a pie plate at 20 yards. I don't expect to be compound good, but
I want snuff cans at 40.
snuff cans, all right. Give me 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It'll be fun. I'm excited for you just because, like I said, I've wanted to do it. I
Yeah.
know at this point in my life, I will
Don't
not
have the
dedicate.
time to-
I will
yeah.
not dedicate the time to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a talk anyone that's considering it has to have with themselves. Like you have to be realistic and be like, am I actually going to commit to this? And as
Yeah.
much as I want to say, yeah, I'm going to do this with you, I'm just not ready for it.
Yeah, and there's so many things going on in life. You do so many different things day to day, whether it's productive or not.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to go out and have fun or something. That's a thing you have to go and shoot that bow every day.
Yeah.
And with the compound, yeah, it's best to shoot it every day, but you don't have to shoot a compound every day
Yeah,
to be
once-
really, really good with it.
By like end of May, early June, I'm shooting probably 5 days. Like I'm shooting 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But I take like the December to like March-ish off with my bow, and then I jump back into shooting again.
I mean, we shoot like we're not doing it this year, but we always used to shoot the winter league, but that's not like solid good practice.
No, it's
you're
20 arrows, and half the time you're fucking with each other. And
Yeah, it's not good practice. It keeps you shooting the bow, but it's not like you're 100%
it keeps
focused.
those muscles
Yeah.
in that shape because
Yes.
like if you haven't shot all year and you pull your bow out, usually your arm's a little sore. That just keeps that muscle memory up.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'm really going to have to – that's going to be the first big barrier because even – it's a 50-pound bow, but I have drawn it a bunch of times. I haven't shot it at all, but I've been drawing
Have you dry
it.
fired it?
No, I haven't dry fired it.
Is that as detrimental on a recurve it is as a
Yes.
compound?
Yes, it is.
Have you tested
Were you
this?
were you at the bow shop when I made that comment?
Yes. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I guess I can bring that up real quick. So
Yeah, I
one
was gonna
time,
say fill me in. I
so
haven't heard this
I was
one.
there buying a release with Frank, and I don't. I'm not going to say the shop name just because.
Oh, I was there for this.
It
Yep.
makes no addition
doesn't
to the
matter.
story.
Yeah.
They're a great bow shop, and Tom buys his stuff from there, so it's all good. But anyway, so I was buying a release and I was testing it out, and this is the first time I ever saw one of these, but it's like a little contraption where you can like test releases.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like pulling it back, and I looked at Frank, totally joking, but the bow tech was standing right there, and I looked at Frank and I said, "Man, this would be so convenient, so I wouldn't have to dry fire my bow all the time." And she was like, "You really shouldn't be doing that." And I was like, "I'm kidding, like it's just a joke."
Yeah.
But
Her face,
her-
though, was
it was
so
priceless.
funny.
Like it rolled off my tongue so perfectly
It
to where
did.
like you two knew it was a joke. But
yeah,
like,
but for
that
a
lady-
bystander, no
they're like,
clue. Sorry? Come again? I have a dry firing story when I worked at Gander Mountain for like 5 seconds
I remember.
years
I
ago.
like vaguely remember. That was right when they closed, wasn't it?
No, it was a few years before they
Oh.
closed, but there was a fellow that worked in there, and I didn't work in the archery shop. I worked over on the fishing side of things, And I was just hanging out over in the archery shop one day. There wasn't really anything going on. And this guy was trying to sell a bow to some guy that came into the shop. And
So the bow tech was
yeah, talking to
no.
someone's, and he was trying to sell him a bow. And I'm standing there just hanging out. And he's talking to the guy. He's like, yeah, and these it was a Matthews. And he's like, yeah, you can dry fire these things. And like, it doesn't do a thing to them. Like, you can dry fire it all day long. Nothing will happen. And the guy was like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. And he's like, no, it's right in the manual. It says you can dry fire them all day. And I'm just standing there watching him like,
Please dry fire this
I was like,
thing.
is he really about to dry fire a bow?
This is one of those things where like, no, I don't think it is. Like, he's like amping himself
Oh,
up
he
to do it.
totally was.
He's like, I'm going to sell this bow today.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll show you. He grabs a release. I was like, no freaking way. He's
This
going
is
to
about
do
to
it.
do it.
He draws it, dry fires that freaking thing. And
I'm
it
sure that the
Oh.
cams are gone.
exploded. It was everywhere. It was a nightmare. And I just started cracking up and walked away. And the guy was like, well, I guess I'm not buying that one.
Well, Matthews has released in like promotional videos a video of their bow like in a press being fired.
Yeah.
But I have never once from any manufacturer see a recommendation in the manual. Please
dry fire this bow.
dry fire this bow for the break-in process.
Yeah.
Like it just is astronomical to me.
Yeah, that's like rule number 1 when you first pick up a bow. Is
I don't draw my
do
bow
not-
back without a
without
arrow
an
in
arrow,
it
yeah.
because
Your D-loop could break.
I've
and-
had D loops break, and I've watched people draw their bows back without arrows, and it makes me cringe because just you just don't know.
Even if like the guy that was selling the bow, if he, so-called successfully dry fired this bow, would you then buy that bow that was just dry fired?
Yeah, I wouldn't buy. I'd be like, well, I guess it won't come apart, but I don't want that bow.
It's kind of like the time I was trying to buy a used car, and I had a car salesman tell me that he actually prefers high mileage on his vehicles because it proves that it's it runs good and it doesn't have any
I
issue.
prefer a dry fired bow, so I know it's not.
Literally, I swear to God that I literally was at a dealership and the guy was like, yeah, I actually, because I complained like it wasn't going to happen either way with the miles because most of the people on here I'm a bigger guy. And I was looking at a Mini Coupe, but it was supercharged with a 5-speed.
How do you go wrong?
It was sweet, but I looked like Donkey Kong in this thing. So like that was the biggest factor, but like you try and explain to a car salesman that it's a little small and they just start feeding all this other, but the seat moves back and it's that sporty feel, all that bullshit. Well, then I was like, all right, I think they're asking like $5,000 for it or something. It had like 190,000 miles on it. I was like, it just got way too many miles for me. And he's like, actually, personally myself, and I'm like, stop.
Shut your mouth.
We're way off topic now, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
That's your fault.
Gander
Anyway.
Mountain's pretty sweet. I miss having Gander Mountain.
Yeah,
because
that was a nice
when
place.
Gander Mountain went out of business around us, that's when affordable hunting clothing left with it.
Yeah.
Like if you walk, this irritates the crap out of me. You walk into Sportsman's and it's all Sitka.
Yep.
It's like cool, but most people, especially in Erie, Pennsylvania,
Most people aren't buying Sitka.
even if they are, it's not necessary. You can't tell me that Sitka is necessary for that 3-hour hunt that you do in the morning before going back in to eat chili and then go back out for another 2 hours. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess if
People buy it, though.
if that's what you
You
want to spend
preach
your
confidence, Nick.
money. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
If it makes you confident, by all means, get
Yeah.
the full suit.
that's true.
The full $6,000 suit.
Oh, get your gun wrapped in it too.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it's not gonna be any sweat off my sack if you do it, but I don't know. I mean, I guess
I've heard good stuff about it.
I have too, but it's always from the people that are still paying on their loans. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Frank, I'm looking forward to seeing your progression with the recurve.
me too. It's definitely going to be...
Are you going to do like one of those videos like, this is me, day one, shooting a recurve? And like,
By the end, he's just wearing like a coyote skin tail over his wiener.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. Now that we just gave that idea away, but
I wouldn't wear a coyote skin over my wiener.
it'd be funny though.
Would be, but I'm not doing it. But
Maybe
I could do a similar video minus the coyote skin.
That would be like, I think, the full progression.
But I guess I
Yeah,
can't
like
do
just
it.
like actually, never mind. That's gonna get offensive real fast. Never mind. Forget I even started.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. On that note, I guess we'll close it out there. Thanks for listening for however long we've been doing this. It's been over 3 years. Like Frank said, keep a lookout. We got some fun things coming down the line. And even though the deer season's pretty much wrapped up, it doesn't mean you still can't get outside.